Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, then my name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. I hope you're all doing really well. And I'm coming on today with a bit of a mini reading. I know it's been a little while since I've done one of these because I was kind of personally taking some time to integrate a lot of what I had been picking up on energetically the last few weeks. And I know that many of you have been going through your own intensive process of integration as well. So I would love to know in the comments how you've been feeling the past week or so, how the energy's been for you, and anything else that you'd like to share, because I always love reading through your comments and hearing what's going on in your own life and on your spiritual journey. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community that we are co-creating together, and all of the messages and readings that come from that co-creative process. And this reading is going to be a little bit different because I am speaking to a specific collective that has dealt with a particular pattern in their life, not just in romantic experiences, but in every form of relationships. So while this pattern may play out most strongly in your love life, you've most likely noticed a similar pattern in many of your relationships. Generally, friendships, maybe with coworkers, family members, acquaintances, etc. The collective that I'm picking up on here, and this may just be a reading for a couple people. I don't know how many will resonate with this, but I feel that for whoever I'm speaking to here, this is really going to shed a lot of light and bring a lot of clarity on something that you've dealt with your entire life. And this is something that I've named the Luminous Guilt Pattern. And essentially, it's a psychological and energetic loop experienced by one like yourself whose presence is magnetizing, emotionally nourishing, and energetically stabilizing to others. This is something very common to experience when you are empathetic, gifted, radiant, and when others become accustomed to you being sort of like this emotional center of gravity for them. And again, this especially can play out in your love life, but really it can happen in any form of relationship or connection. And for the group that I'm speaking to here, you may feel very much like a lone wolf, or you've felt this way your entire life. You may be someone who notices that you have a very transient kind of way of moving through communities, social groups, and relationships, not because you don't desire community or desire to put down roots, because I actually feel that this is something that you often crave, but it's because your energy is so powerful and so radiant and so magnetic that your whole life you've carried this subconscious awareness that if you stay in one place for too long, people tend to become dependent on your energy or your presence as this stabilizing force for them, even if they don't realize their own dependency on you. And I feel that at times, because of the pressure or the heaviness that can come with knowing that someone else is depending on you, your energy, your presence, your light to stabilize their own, you often can move on from like a friendship or a relationship or a community, or create some kind of space or distance, not because you don't desire closeness, but because you desire to connect without the pressure of feeling like you are the stabilizer for another person or for a community or a group. And it's difficult for you to stay in one place for too long, one relationship, a friendship, a community, or even a physical location, without beginning to feel those like strings of codependency beginning to kind of attach to you, even in subtle subconscious kinds of ways. Because most of the time when people attach to you in this way, they don't even realize consciously that they're doing it. They just know that they feel very drawn to you, that they like being around you. And then slowly it's like they need you around. They need you to be present with them because, again, they subconsciously come to rely or depend upon your presence in their life to stabilize them. And that dynamic can create a lot of pressure that actually can become a bit destabilizing to you because you find that you are then kind of draining a lot of energy being this stabilizing force for others without necessarily having the energy to pour back into yourself or your own creations or your own life. And this is why often you live with the contradiction of craving community, craving friendship, craving closeness or relationship. But also when those things come into your life and you start to sense the dynamic that I'm describing here, you can begin to feel the need to go back into kind of being this lone wolf or creating a kind of distance, not out of coldness, but out of recognition that your energy tends to have this effect on other people. And so the reason I call it a guilt pattern as well is because I feel that there can be a kind of guilt that arises from this where you at times will be in a connection or a friendship or a relationship that actually feels really good to you, that feels like companionship or community or feels supportive to you. But instead of allowing yourself to fully lean into it and to just allow yourself to be loved or to be admired or to be supported in the moment, you will sometimes find yourself creating space or stepping away because you feel this sense of guilt knowing that this person may be becoming dependent on your presence in their life, and you don't want your absence in the future to cause them any kind of like pain or feeling like they're going through energetic withdrawal by losing your presence or losing your energy futuristically. So I get that at times you will preemptively remove yourself from a relationship or a friendship or a community or a situation, even while it still feels supportive to you or good to you, because you recognize that in the future you may need to pull back or you may need to shift locations or you may need to exit that community or that friendship or that relationship, but you also recognize that because of the power of your energy and your presence in that person's life, when you do that, it could be very difficult for them and you could feel a kind of preemptive guilt over what could happen futuristically when you inevitably will have to move on or remove yourself from whatever that connection is or create some kind of space or distance. So I know that if you're someone who hasn't experienced the luminous guilt pattern, as we're calling it, you may not quite understand it and it may sound like pure avoidance, but it's not. Because people who avoid connection, people who have an avoidant attachment style, are avoiding connection from a place of feeling. Usually it comes from a traumatized place. So that person has experienced some kind of trauma in the past or simply traumas when they were growing up or maybe when they were very young, and they learned to somehow associate closeness with pain for themselves or something that would eventually cause pain. And so they avoid getting too close to other people. They avoid securely attaching to other people within relationships to prevent the same kind of pain from happening for themselves. But the difference is this luminous guilt pattern is almost the opposite, because you're not avoiding pain for yourself. You're actually preemptively avoiding what you perceive to be a painful situation for the other person. So while it can look like just being avoidant on the surface, and maybe at times you've been labeled that way or you've wondered if you're just an avoidant person, the truth is it's actually the opposite in this case. You're not avoiding attachment because you're concerned that you are going to get hurt if you get too close. you're actually avoiding attaching too closely because you're worried that your eventual need to pull back into solitude or withdraw your energy somewhat will cause pain for the other person because you sense that they're becoming dependent on you in some way for their own stability, and you don't want that to happen. And so this is a very, very complex energetic dynamic that can often lead you to feel as though you desire connection, you desire friendship, you desire community, but you often seem to cut it off preemptively or distance yourself from it, even when it does feel good, because you don't want to be responsible for how that other person will feel in your absence. You are also someone who does require a great deal of solitude. And so what I pick up is that there has to be an understanding within your friendships, within your relationships, within people who connect with you, that there are going to be periods of time where you have to, in essence, kind of go into the wilderness, as all wise sages and spiritual masters throughout history have done, that you are eventually at certain points in time going to need to withdraw from all connections in your life, at least temporarily, to go into the silence, into solitude, to kind of go into your cave and recharge yourself and reconnect with yourself internally. And there are a lot of people who don't understand this need that someone like you has for this space and for this solitude for certain periods of time. And they will take it as a rejection or an avoidance of them. And so I'm getting that this also adds to the complication, because often when we talk about this pulling away that has to happen within some of your relationships at times, it's not even about the other person or the dynamic. It's about how your soul operates. It's about your energy. It's about your need to go into a state of solitude to reconnect with the sacred parts of yourself that you can only really fully reconnect with if you're part of this collective when you are actually alone or in that solitude. Now, of course, this could just be for a few hours in a day, or just during the day, or a couple days, whatever this is for you, weeks. I mean, of course, this is going to look different from person to person. But for who I'm speaking to here, this solitude is actually really essential to your energetic hygiene, to your personal growth, to your soul's evolution, to your purpose on this planet, to your creative processes. And so I'm getting that anyone who's in your life long term, you kind of have an agreement with. They're sort of the kinds of people that you can pull away as necessary to be able to recalibrate yourself, to recharge, to go into that solitude, but then you can reconnect with each other because you recognize that the bond goes deeper than the physical, that it's more energetic than anything else, that even in those times where you are physically alone and reconnecting with yourself, that bond still exists spiritually and energetically. And there's even still a subconscious telepathy and energy exchange happening on a higher cosmic level with those individuals, even when you are not necessarily physically communicating or interacting. But again, you can see where this becomes difficult in situations where someone becomes dependent on you, on your conscious presence, on your energy, on your communication, on your time, because then when you inevitably have to go into your own solitude, they may react negatively or fall apart. And again, I'm not saying this from any state of you being arrogant or egotistical or anything like that. It's just an awareness of your energy and the kind of effect that it really does have on people. And you've seen this play out in your life if this reading is for you. And I feel as though this gets misjudged and would be misunderstood by people who don't experience this dynamic, and it would get labeled in certain ways. So most likely, if this reading is for you, this is something that you rarely, if ever, have spoken about with another person in the physical, but you've most likely thought about it quite a bit within yourself. And that's why I wanted to put words to it in this reading, because you guys know I love exploring those topics that I feel so many of us hold within ourselves or feel or think within ourselves, but can't always fully communicate with the people around us necessarily. I love diving into those kinds of topics to make you feel less alone on your journey. Which, by the way, if this is connecting for you, I would love for you to subscribe here on YouTube, join our beautiful, like-minded community of conscious creative beings. And I now want to get into some specifics of the pattern that you might experience, how this pattern might look if you are someone who has experienced this so-called luminous guilt pattern. Okay, so essentially, this is the pattern. First of all, you are someone who is naturally magnetic and emotionally nourishing. So people tend to feel better around you without necessarily knowing why. And they've probably communicated this to you in different ways. Like, I don't know what it is about you, but when I'm with you, I just feel happier. I feel lighter. I feel more like myself. Or they might flat out tell you like, wow, talking to you is so addictive. And they may say those kinds of things to you. People feel seen in your presence. They feel lit up, less alone. You literally hold space for them like oxygen in ways that, again, they may not even fully consciously register. But then the next part of the pattern is often, not in every case, but often people begin to attach to you, not necessarily toxically, not necessarily consciously, but in subtle ways. So they may not even realize it, but you slowly and intuitively begin to feel like you're becoming an emotional tether for them, or you are like their stabilizer energetically. So then you begin to sense this growing reliance that they have on you. You pick up on it psychically because you are someone who is very psychic and very intuitive. And you begin to recognize on that intuitive level that they're no longer just using your presence for companionship and connection, but actually for stabilization of themselves. And as a result of that, you begin to feel the pressure, and your body and spirit start to tighten in this anticipation because you begin to feel this guilt or dread, not because you've misled anyone in the situation, but because you begin to feel like it's your responsibility not to quote unquote break them or cause them pain by connecting with them in a way that they begin to depend on. So you may preemptively worry about how they could spiral or be sad or feel this dependency on you when or if you have to pull back or create distance in the future. And this may cause you to actually shrink or distance yourself or try to manage that connection or that situation in some way. So this can actually become an internalized belief when it's unconscious. So if you are falling into this category, before you became conscious of this whole dynamic and pattern from a spiritual perspective, you may have actually internalized the belief that somehow your presence or energy breaks people or ruins people. Or, for example, romantically, you may have had people say like, it's like you almost like ruin the lives of the people that you date, or maybe you felt that way. Like after someone would date you or be in a relationship with you, it looked like their life just fell apart, or like you cursed them or something like that. And so when this happened unconsciously, you may have thought that after meeting you, while initially people seem to benefit from your presence, over time, you may have developed this unconscious belief that somehow when you get close to someone and then have to disconnect from them, it ruins their life. But that's actually not the case. It's because in those situations, that person was actually becoming dependent on your powerful energy to stabilize them or to uplift them. So they weren't doing that stabilization for themselves. And so when you did choose to walk away or to separate or create distance, it wasn't that somehow you had cursed them or you'd ruined their life or anything like that. It was actually the opposite. Your presence had been so beautiful and so beneficial in their life that without even realizing they were doing it, they became very dependent on it. And then in your absence, really they just were feeling their own energy again without yours attached to it, if that makes sense. So the thing about this pattern is that it can often prevent you from being able to fully experience the kind of connection and companionship that you really deserve to experience in your life. And it can hold you back to some degree from simply like having that activated sacral chakra energy, letting yourself just feel free and flowing and lit up in the moment with another person or with a community or with a group of people. And so if this reading relates for you, if this connects for you, I hope that it kind of triggers you to potentially ask yourself, how have I possibly preemptively shut down my own joy or pleasure in a friendship, in a community, in a connection in the past? Or how could I be kind of doing that even in the present? Because I am aware of how powerful my energy is and the kind of effect that it has on others. Because I do feel that we are shifting collectively into a time where we are meant to be burning away that guilt and shame, where we are meant to be accepting the power of our own energy and our own being without apology, recognizing that yes, we can have this powerful, beautiful effect on the lives of others if we choose to connect with them or communicate with them or have them in our lives. But it's also not our responsibility how they handle our withdrawal or our absence, or at times our need for sacred solitude. And I feel that we are really learning how to love ourselves first and foremost, understanding that we cannot give from an empty cup, recognizing that we give from a place of overflow within ourselves, and that we can only come into that state of overflow when we are willing to consistently pour back into ourselves rather than outward all the time into other people and things that may be wanting things from us. And so I feel like there is this kind of beautiful shift taking place where we are learning how to be able to connect beautifully, passionately, happily with other people, with new forms of connection and community, without holding that sense of guilt for how they react to our distance, our separation, or our absence. And this is not an easy task, especially when you are someone who is as empathic as you are, because you not only pick up on someone's energy personally, but you also pick up on their reactions to you, to boundaries that you set, to decisions that you make for yourself, to ways that you choose to support and nourish yourself, even if it isn't necessarily what they want out of you. And so I feel that so many of us are learning how to be able to understand how we operate and what we need, and to ask for that out of our connections, out of our community, out of our friendships, without apology for taking the space that we need or for operating in the way that we operate, while at the same time allowing us to bloom and to open and to lean in to connections that do feel good for us, that feel supportive for us, without needing to necessarily preemptively predict how things are going to play out in the future, or how that is going to have some kind of impact on the other person that we are then going to feel guilty for. I know this is such a very, very specific message. I almost hesitate to post this because I feel like this is only going to resonate with a very particular group of people. But if this is for you, I really hope that it reaches you, and I hope that it inspires you in some way, or just makes you feel less alone on your own journey. If you do have any personal experiences with this luminous guilt pattern, as we've been calling it, then I would love to hear from you in the comments. And if you would like assistance in clearing your own energy and aligning with your highest timeline in love and in all areas of your life, I really recommend checking out my subliminals. I have created over 130 subliminals for all areas of life on my app, Sound and Soulful, and the app is now available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. And subliminals in my own life have been the most powerful tool that I've used to reclaim my power, my confidence, my boundaries, to manifest in my own life. I've been using them for years, and I see more powerful results from these subliminals I've created than any other manifestation technique that I've tried. So I am so passionate about sharing my library of them with all of you. And I have a list of ones I'm working on right now. I'm working on several new subliminals at the moment that will be in the app soon. So I will keep you posted on that here on the channel. But essentially, they are designed to deeply reprogram and shift the limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind to burn away all of that guilt and shame energy that we've been discussing, to really help you step into your power and your magnetism unapologetically. And so specifically, if you're connecting with this reading, a couple subliminals I would really recommend would be probably magnetic feminine energy. If you are a divine feminine, this will really help you to step into your softness, your receptivity, your power, your glow, to attract in connections that really support you and nourish you, and to burn away, again, that kind of guilt and shame energy over receiving, over allowing yourself to receive within those connections. But I also would recommend my Love Magnetism Subliminal and also my Subliminal for a Highest-Vibrational timeline. And you can read through the affirmations embedded within those tracks once you sign up in the app. So the link to download the app is in the pinned comment and description box if you want to check out those subliminals or any others in the app. And you can listen to any subliminal in 10 different background sound options and create your own custom private playlists as well. So there is so much to explore there. I personally love listening to my subliminals playlist overnight while I sleep. And whenever I do, I always wake up feeling so magnetic, and I see magical little moments showing up throughout the day. So these subliminals really are so powerful. So many people have seen results with using them, and I would love to know how they help you to manifest in your own life. So try them out for yourself when you download my app, which again, the link to that is under this video. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, where I've been posting a lot of text posts and inspiring materials lately to uplift your vibration all day long. And I now am also releasing channeled songs on Spotify. So if you follow my Spotify under my artist name, Songs by Infinity, you can be the first to listen when I drop my 4th song, which I am just recording the vocals for now. So it's very close to being finished. And yeah, you can listen to my first 3 channeled songs that are already posted. And you can also read the lyrics on Spotify as well, which is why I always recommend that as the best place to stream my music right now. And I believe that's everything. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this energy. I'm really curious to know if this message connected. It was a bit random, but something that I was really channeling deeply into the past couple days. So I hope it connected for whoever it was meant for. And I will connect with you here again in the next reading.